My wife, F32, and I, male 27, experienced some relationship problems caused by an ex-boyfriend of hers that I believe to still be affecting us today. For some context, we first met when we were studying overseas and working part-time together at the same restaurant. I'm from Australia and she is from France. After a few shifts together, we became friends and then eventually started dating. I was 19, and she was 24 at the time. We dated for a little over 3 years before moving back to my home country, and 2 years after moving, we decided to get married. The problem started when my wife and I just got engaged. We decided to do the obligatory social media announcement posts informing everyone about our exciting news. Around a week later when I was sent a message request by an Instagram account I didn't know but saw that my wife and the person followed each other, so I thought it was one of her old school friends or something and decided to accept the request. By then, I had gotten over 100 messages from my wife's friends and family. I'd never met congratulating us, so I was expecting this message request to be more of the same. Instead of a congratulatory message and an introduction as to who they were, I was sent a bunch of screenshots of messenger chats that were in French and a message that followed saying that I should read these conversations to know how my fiancé is. I was feeling that something was a bit off but still believing that this person was a family member or friend of my wife that's English wasn't very good. I decided to translate the screenshots to be able to respond to them. Naively, I translated them to think that they'd just be some cute messages to only read that it was conversations between two people. The topics included the recounting of sexual encounters, the sexual acts that they had performed, boyfriends, and how inferior Asians guys are to white guys. I am Asian BTW. I sent a message back to the person asking who the messages were between. They replied, saying that it was my new SL/T wife, and sent 3 sex tapes. I was in shock, and immediately, thoughts that she had cheated on me filled my mind. After sitting for a while and trying to comprehend what had happened, I decided that I would watch the videos to try to see if it is actually my wife in them. Later that night, after my wife had fallen asleep, I decided to watch the videos believing that there would be no way that the woman I had been living with for 5 years could do something like this. But to my disappointment, I confirmed that all videos were of her. The first 2 of the videos appeared to have the same guy and the third video and a different guy. To say I was furious was an understatement. I had literally watched the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with fucking not 1, but 2 other guys. The most painful and infuriating things for me was seeing her acting in ways she never did with me and also doing certain sexual acts with other guys that I really wanted to try but she downright refused to do with me even after 5 years of dating and a proposal. I decided that I needed to confront her, thinking that she had cheated on me with a bunch of other guys. I wanted her to explain to me why she did it. After staying awake and waiting through the entire night and not being able to waiting anymore, I woke her up at 6 a.m. and showed her everything that was sent to me and asked her to explain what this all was. She immediately started hyperventilating, then began to cry. She kept repeatedly apologizing and begging me not to leave her and was like this for a good 10 minutes. After managing to calm her down, she explained that she never cheated on me and these videos were taken before we had met and that she didn't even know these videos existed. She also tried reassuring me that the messages were between her and her best friend and they would share everything about their lives with each other. She said the things they talked about were from so long ago that it felt like a different person had written the messages. She kept repeating that the things she said in those messages made her feel deep shamed and regret. It was so embarrassing to her that she ever acted and spoke like that. To try proof she wasn't cheating, she showed me the chat history between her and her best friend and found the exact same sections of the conversations in the messages between them and saw that they were from long before we had met. She also explained to me that the guy who sent me the message on Instagram was her first boyfriend from high school in France. He was apparently very emotionally and mentally manipulative during the time they were together, and for her to get any sort of affection or praise from him, she would do what he wanted and let him do whatever he wanted to her. She said she didn't understand how he was able to get the screenshots or the sex tapes that he didn't even take. We eventually came to conclusion that he had hacked into her account somehow. She said that the 2 guys in the videos were short-term Korean boyfriends from when she first moved to overseas. To say I was relieved was an understatement, but I still had the feeling of disgust when I looked at my wife. Over the next few months, I tried pretending that everything was okay, but I couldn't get over what I had seen. She was a completely different woman in my eyes. I know body count shouldn't matter, but reading the messages how many guys she slept with really bugged the shit out of me. We had told each other our body counts in the past and I wasn't bothered with it at all. She literally could have told me any number and I think I would have been fine with it as long as it was the truth, but now that I know that not only did she lie about the amount of men she had been with, but the fact that half of those men were guys I knew quite well and considered friends destroyed me. I eventually told her how I felt when she blew up at me one day for not wanting to have sex with her. She started crying again and asked if we should cancel the wedding. I said we should consider it but not act on anything yet, hoping the way I was feeling was just a phase and that I would eventually get over it. The last thing I wanted was for my friends and family to ask why we're not getting married anymore and me having to explain the things that happened. We agreed to go to couples counseling together with the goals of fixing our relationship and getting married on the date we had set before that shit happened. We found couples counseling to be very helpful, and one of the best things we both liked while at our sessions was, we were able to try verbally express what we were feeling and literally have it translated perfectly into a cohesive explanation by our couples counselor. After 10 sessions, we had been given a list of strategies for us to use together to mend our relationship, and I had been referred to a psychologist to some private sessions that I was super beneficial. At this stage everything was almost much back to as it was before I was sent the messages, but I honestly never quite felt the same or trusted my wife again the way I used to. We did end up going through with the wedding believing that my wife's past shouldn't affect my feelings towards her, and that if we did end up breaking up, it would effectively mean that her ex succeeded in his objective and would have got what he wanted. About a year after our wedding, my wife planned a trip to France to visit all the family and friends. I was originally meant to go with her but couldn't, as I had just been given a promotion and had only been in the position about a month. While she was on her trip, I get another message on Instagram from her ex saying she only likes me, followed by another sextape of her. After watching for a few seconds, I just assumed it was another old video that was taken and blocked him. I planned to show my wife what he sent, but ending up totally forgetting about the whole thing. Fast forward to today. We have been married for almost 2 years now and have a baby on the way. During one of her obstetrician appointments that I went to with her, there was talk of her possible due dates and around what day she would have conceived. While sitting there and listening, I was doing the maths in my head and realized something wasn't adding up. The period she would have had to have conceived is when she was back in France to visiting her family. I stayed quiet and convinced myself that I obviously wasn't calculating correctly because I've always been shit at maths, but I had remembered what her ex had sent me and had a gut feeling that something was very wrong. Eventually my insecurities got the better of me and I ended up watching the video he sent, trying to find any clues of when it was taken. Unfortunately, I concluded that the video must have been taken at some point when we were together, as I could see a scar on her pubic area that she had given herself by waxing when we were on our honeymoon. After thinking about this for a while, I've decided not to confront her with what I know. I'm not going to ask friends or family for support. I'm not going to go to counseling. The less people that know, the better. I don't think I can live with the shame of people knowing that my wife is giving birth to another man's child. I'm going to wait for the baby to be born to see if it is mine before I make any final decisions. Thank you everyone who read everything I had to say. I really need to get this out, and not being able to tell anyone what I was going through was driving me insane. Update 1. It honestly feels like my life was pulled out from under me and I'm not too sure how to comprehend it all at the moment. A lot of people criticized me for not telling my wife about the latest video, and a lot of you also suggested that I check the EXIF data to see what date the video was created. Following everyone's advice, I did both. I first checked the metadata to see the creation date, which showed that it was taken on the 1st of January 2024 at 1:18 a.m. It was sent to me the 6th of January 2024. I kept in mind that people were saying that data can easily be edited and didn't take the newfound information too seriously, even though it looked like a relatively recent video. After seeing the metadata, I sat her down on the couch to tell her about her video. I went into the conversation fully prepared with a list of things to say I had made with my therapist. I made sure not to make accusations or even make anything I said sound like an accusation, and was 100% prepared for her to blow up at me for not telling her about it sooner. My therapist gave me a guide of how I should deliver the information and how I should attempt to give her back control of the situation by offering to show her the video, letting her watch it on her own and deleting it in front of her when she was ready. I started by saying that I had received another sextape from her ex and when I received it. Then I went into why I didn't tell her immediately after receiving it or after she got back from her trip. After giving my explanation, I asked her if she wanted to see the video, which she said yes to, so I gave her my phone and she pretty much immediately started the video as soon as I handed my phone over to her, which didn't give me a chance to get up and leave the room to let her watch it on her own. As soon as I heard the audio from the video, I immediately stood up and was turning to walk to a different room when she grabbed my pant leg and started profusely apologizing. I said there was nothing to apologize for, as this was from before she met me and that I should be apologizing to her for keeping it from her. She asked me why I decided to tell her now, and I told her the truth about my concerns about the due date and how it wasn't quite making sense in my head, and that's when she lost it. She grabbed my hand and kept saying it was a mistake and that she wasn't thinking straight because she was drunk. My heart just dropped and I knew instantly what she meant by her repetitive ramblings. I told her to tell me what exactly happened or I'd leave immediately. Long story short, she cheated on me when she went on her trip to France with her ex that was sending me the screenshots and videos. They ended up having sex after catching up at a New Year's Eve party they were both at. They're from a small town in central France with only a population of a few thousand, and apparently, they had seen each other at the local supermarket a few days after her arriving at her hometown. My wife and her ex are from the same friendship group. They all went to the same kindergarten, primary school, middle school, and high school, which is how they ended up at the same New Year's Eve party. She also told me that her ex had admitted to hacking into her Facebook account to gain access to the sextapes she had made shared with her other exes. Although calling what he did hacking makes it sound quite sophisticated, she hadn't changed her password since high school and he still knew them when he got access to all her accounts. So fucking dumb. She begged me not to divorce her and tried to bargain with me, promising it would be the only time she'd ever cheat, promising that she'll be the best wife to me, letting me have sex with any and as many women I'd like, and even stooped so low as to offer sexual acts. I said I would only consider staying if she would do two things: give me her phone so I can go through her massages and get a paternity test done. She instantly agreed to the paternity test but was a bit more hesitant about handing her phone over, but eventually agreed. While looking through her phone, I found more evidence that she cheated on me on New Year's Day, as well as evidence that she had cheated me one other time from her period tracker app. She uses the app to track her for her periods and sexual activity. I just had to go to the dates where I wasn't in the same country as her and see if she had sex or not. Unfortunately for her, she was very diligent with keeping track of her sexual activities. By this point I had already made up my mind about the relationship and just left. I'm currently staying at a hotel and will be moving into my apartment that I had been trying to rent out for a while. I've spoken to both my solicitor and my wife and have agreed to go to the mandatory counseling in order for me to be able to go through with the divorce, which will start in October. We've also agreed to get the paternity test done after the baby is born, and I got my in-laws plane tickets to come to Australia earlier than originally planned so they can look after their daughter. Now on to second story. Sister kept waking up my baby with her late night antics, so I enforced a strict curfew, sparking family drama. I, 25F, live in a 3-bedroom apartment with my fiancé, 27 male. We have a 6-month-old son. My younger sister Mia, fake name, 20F, recently started attending a university that's closer to where I live than both my parents' places. Because she needs to get to class early in the morning, my fiancé and I allowed her to move into our spare bedroom. She's been living with us since January. There's a set of rules I've been having Mia follow since she moved in, mostly to make sure everyone can live peacefully. One of the most important rules concerns arriving after my son's bedtime, usually between 19 hours and 20 hours. Mia is allowed to come home however late she wants, as long as she doesn't make too much noise. The door to the apartment has an electronic keypad lock, and the one we use also has a normal lock under it. Everyone has a copy of the key, but we all prefer typing in the password. However, the keypad is very noisy, and my son's nursery isn't far from the door. Every time the keypad is used after I've put the baby to sleep, he wakes up. So naturally, the rule about getting home late includes not using the keypad. Everyone, including Mia, has known about this since day one. At first, we had no problems. But now that Mia has gotten used to college life, she's been going out at night frequently. This past month, she has arrived home after midnight every Friday and Saturday night. She always forgets the don't make too much noise rule, and she has, on multiple occasions, used the keypad. My son wakes up crying every damn time. I'd sit her down and remind her of the rule whenever this happened, but she'd continue to do it. My fiancé and I got tired of putting our baby back to sleep because of that, so I changed the password and told Mia she was no longer allowed to use the keypad. She agreed, and promised to try to make less noise. On Friday night this week, Mia went out with her friends. She came home very drunk at 4 a.m., and forgot that I'd changed the password. Not only did she use the keypad, she also got the password wrong so many times that she triggered an alarm. I was furious. Not only did my baby wake up crying, but I also got complaints from my neighbors. The next morning, I told Mia that I'm establishing a curfew. While living with me, she needs to be home by 20 hours. She won't be allowed to go out at night for the rest of the semester. Mia put up a fight, saying I have no right to ground her. Edit, I never use that word, like this, or dictate what she does with her free time, but I held my ground. I told her she'll be free to do as she pleases when she has her own place and raises her own family. While living with mine, she has to do as I say. She told our parents about this. Our mother and stepfather are both on my side. Our father is on Mia's. He's saying I'm not her mother, and I have no right to treat her like a child. He also thinks it's unfair to do this to her over a drunken mistake. Ida? NTA, I admit it does sound like a bit of a power trip to ground your adult sister, but it is well within your rights to enforce rules when you are allowing your sister to live there apparently for free. If she wants full freedom to do whatever she wants, she can always rent her own place. If she's in college, she's definitely old enough to have some responsibility. She is living here for free, but only for now. The deal is for her to start paying a small portion of rent once she gets a job. NTA, and you've given her way more chances than I would have. I would tell her that if she wakes the baby up one more time, she's out. I can't imagine how annoyed your husband must be that you keep letting your adult sister act like an entitled 16-year-old. My fiancé is actually the reason I've been giving her this many chances. A big reason why I'm establishing the curfew now is because the situation has gotten bad enough that even he's sick of it. Update 1. It's very hard to explain my relationship with my younger sister in proper detail, but I will say that, while I love her dearly, Mia has always been a very inconsiderate person. I have countless examples. She almost didn't attend our cousin's wedding last year because she didn't want to walk to the venue, which was 2 blocks away from our mom's place. We shared a bathroom when we were younger, and she'd insist on having the top drawers because she didn't want to crouch down, but she was cool with me doing so. She slept through my college graduation, and didn't apologize for it. I'm bringing this up now because whenever I asked Mia why she kept forgetting to use her key, her excuse was that looking through her bag took too long and the keypad was quicker. In her head, bothering other people is better than slightly inconveniencing herself. After I established the curfew, Mia tried different ways to make me change my mind. She'd talk about not being able to cancel her tickets for Party X, or about the fun her friends had at Party Y. She'd show me her developing LinkedIn profile, and tell me she had learned her lesson and would be more responsible. At first, I really didn't want to have to kick her out, which many of you suggested, but I have limits. A few days ago, I heard her complaining to her friends on the phone about her bitch of a sister who wouldn't let her do anything. Later that day, I asked her which of our parents she planned on moving in with. Cue more fighting. I managed to tell her that I had no obligation to continue housing her, for free, if she couldn't respect my family. Mia could either move back in with our parents or continue living with me for the low price of respecting my infant son and stop complaining about it. We did have a very productive conversation afterwards. I managed to get a lot off my chest, as did my sister. Mia apologized for everything. She admitted she'd been selfish, promised she'd make efforts to change and mature. I'm a strong believer that people can change, which is why I'm not kicking her out right now. But I made it very clear that Mia is on thin ice, and the next time she does anything like this will be the last time she ever sees the inside of my home. The curfew will continue until the end of the semester, as originally planned. My father also agreed to pay for Mia to go back to therapy. It helped her a lot when she was younger, so I'm hopeful about the future of this living situation. I also want to thank those who suggested a white noise machine. My son is not a light sleeper, the keypad is just very loud and startles him awake, but my fiancé and I are still looking into getting one. Anything that helps our baby sleep better is welcome. Thank you, Reddit. Update 2. Okay, you guys called it. A little under a month ago, my fiancé and I kicked Mia out of my apartment. This actually had very little to do with the keypad thing. After my last post, things were relatively peaceful for a while. And then June came, and Mia decided to go back to her old ways. At first, it was just run-of-the-mill entitlement. She started taking my stuff without permission, whining whenever my baby cried and complaining about having to do everything, literally just her own laundry. All of that was more annoying than unbearable, so I'd just take my stuff back and let her clothes stink. Then, early in September, Mia went on a holiday beach trip with her friends. The day after she left, I noticed my diaper bag and one of my son's blankets were missing. Both were expensive gifts my best friend gave me for my baby shower. I checked every room in the apartment, and found all of the items that had been in the diaper bag dumped on Mia's bed. She had emptied the bag to use it as extra luggage. The blanket was in a separate pocket, so she took it by mistake. Later, when I got them back, they were both dirty and sandy. I called Mia as soon as I found the items. Her reasoning for taking the diaper bag was that she didn't want to empty her school bag, and her computer wouldn't fit anywhere else. She also called me dramatic when I told her to apologize. That's when I kicked her out. I told her that once she got back, she'd have 1 week to grab her things and move back to either of our parents' places. My sister spent the rest of her trip trying to convince me otherwise. She also tried to get my parents on her side. My mom told her she'd brought it on herself. My father did try to convince me to be nice, but I told him I already had been. Mia tried to pick a fight about it when she got back from her trip, but I didn't budge. She moved out officially a couple weeks ago. My mom is making her save money so she can pay me back for the, almost, 8 months of rent she owes me. To be honest, I'm writing this mostly to vent. Being an older sister is exhausting. The house is always on fire, but you can never be the one freaking out. You're like a second mother, but not an actual parent, so your younger sibling feels no need to respect you. At least that was my experience growing up. My mom is fantastic, but she still acknowledges that I was basically Mia's third parent. My father was a good dad, but a mediocre parent, and he refuses to understand that. He also doesn't accept that after the divorce, I was more responsible for Mia than he was. I love my sister dearly, but she's always treated me as an afterthought. For a few years, she'd contact me almost exclusively when she needed a ride. I'd spend a shit ton of money on presents, she'd give me a $2 gift 2 months after my actual birthday. This happened 3 separate times, including this year. The list goes on. It always felt like I was the last thing on her mind. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I was always there for her. I will always love my sister, and I do believe she loves me too. But I also understand she's too selfish to realize she treats me poorly. I have to focus on my son, and I can't put up with Mia's immaturity right now. Do I regret letting her move in with me? No. Do I regret not kicking her out back in May? Also no. To be honest, I think I needed that. Knowing I tried has always helped me sleep at night. Plus, living with Mia wasn't all bad. Accompanying the Drake/Kendrick Lamar feud with her was pretty fun, at first, at least. My sister and I are on speaking terms. She was pissed at first, but got over it once she realized that literally no one was really taking her side. She's back to transitioning between our parents' places every week. I don't miss that lifestyle. Mia hates it, as it takes her longer to get to her classes every morning. She's apologized, but I'm not letting her move back in with me. My son's turning 1 in a couple of weeks. Mia is invited to his birthday party, but I'm not expecting her to show up. My fiancé and I are getting married in a little under a year, and she's invited to that too. I hope my sister can learn to be more considerate, and that we can improve our relationship someday.